All right, welcome to another weekly workshop on mental health and self care in Triba. We're joined again by Coach John Fitch. Thank you. Welcome to the Triba stream, man.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be back, my friends.
Last week we talked about our treehouse and having a solid place to come back to, as well as to step away from all the noise and chaos and get a bigger picture for hey, what's going on in my business and my life and how am I professionally developing, because we can get so entrenched in the weeds, right, John? You just
That's right.
get into it. I mean, you get
You can get
sick
lost
and
in
you're,
it.
you're trying to just make it, just survive. Things snowball, and having a tree house, having your safe, secure place to come back to and observe
Yeah.
things. It's a mindset. So this workshop's all about business mindset, but also your personal mindset, because that ties directly
Mm-hmm.
into it. Which John and I have been doing some coaching. He's been helping me with my own creativity, my business development, and it's been very impactful. I've had eye-opening revelations talking to you, walking around.
Awesome.
um,
Awesome.
I was pacing outside our apartment or our townhouses. My neighbors actually have a camera that was like pointed at that spot. So I'm assuming they were looking at it or getting notifications like somebody's just suspiciously pacing
Ding, ding,
outside of your
ding.
house. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's
Uh,
funny.
but I realized, a lot of what I'm doing has been the same thing and trying
Mm-hmm.
to do it in a little bit different ways. But it's nice to have somebody's outside perspective like John's, who's tried a bunch of stuff. He's worked with different creatives and business minds, and he helped me sort of look at it from a bird's eye view. So there's going to be some changes in how White Rabbit operates, and I highly recommend y'all reach out to him on Discord. Hop in Triba and message him at Coach John Fitch. It's in you
That's
can
right.
ping him or message him in Triba, but he is a great addition to the community, and I'm really excited that he's putting on these every Tuesday this month. We've done
Yeah, it's
This
fun.
will be our second, and then the last one will be at the end of February, and we'll see what else comes after
I'm
that.
sure we'll do more in the future, but we'll be scheduling series more than likely. So if you guys like this, you talk to me, talk to Sam. If you have something specific you'd like us to cover, I'm sure that Sam and I can put our heads together and schedule
For
something.
sure.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Welcome Rycon as well in the stream. Greetings and salutations,
Rycon, what's up,
everyone.
cuz? What's up, cuz?
Is that actually your cousin, or just you use that
No,
term of
just a friend.
endearment? A term.
Yeah,
Okay.
just a term of endearment. I'm
I like
I'm a
it.
Californian through and through. I will be calling people dude, cuz, man. I called my
Dude.
mom man this morning. I was
Oh,
like, man,
yeah.
like that's
You
a hundred
know,
percent,
it
hundred
happens.
percent Californian affectation
Yeah.
stuff, man. I can't-
I play so many games with my wife with all the guys, and she fits it really well. Like she just hangs out with us. And her gamer
That's
talk has
cool.
grown to the point where it's sometimes indistinguishable. So I'll be like, "Yo, dude, let's go to bed." Like, what am I doing? Calling my
Bro.
wife, dude, bro. Yeah, bro, let's go to bed,
Wait
bro.
till your kids start calling you, bro. It's not bedtime yet, bro. Can I have some more ice cream, bro?
We've had to really think about our gamer talk because you don't
Yeah, that's right.
consider it, but when you got a 2-year-old who's parroting everything you say, and you're saying like these nuts, like she starts saying stuff like that. Um, you can say it
That's
very
too funny.
jokingly, but still got to be considering you like,
Little ears, little
yeah,
ears.
little ears, and
Yeah, yeah,
especially when I'm playing with younger gamers, I want to make sure I'm being a
yeah.
positive influence. So we've really tried to keep it PG as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean that could be an entire talk we could do at some point about how gnarly the game, how like hostile the modern multiplayer gaming environment is. And I don't mean that as far as games are bad. I mean that people don't have healthy education on how to be a good team player, how to be a good sport, how to win gracefully, how to lose gracefully. You know, like there's a lot of people that like never learned any of those things. And then, okay, here's a free competitive online game where one person can win, like a battle royale or something. And then the next thing you know, people are having like serious emotional problems dealing with the complexities of that environment. It's like, yeah, it's a thing. It's a skill. It's a skill to be like a person who doesn't like have serious bad poor sport problems. That's a skill.
It
That's not,
is.
you don't wake up one day and you're just that way.
It's a
It's hard.
skill.
It's not easy.
Everybody
Yeah.
kind
So
of succumbs to peer pressure in one way or another. I feel like it's just
yeah,
immersion. You absorb what the people around you are doing, and especially in the gamer community, man, it's just
yeah.
toxic sometimes. It's like you
It
have to
really can be. It's unfortunate.
practice being a positive influence and force, which
It's
might
real.
be
It is a
good lead-in
practice.
to confidence.
It is. Yeah. So,
Like,
so
like when
before
you're
before
standing out like that, right? Sorry,
Mhm.
when you're standing out like that,
No,
that
no.
takes confidence to not be, or even to like stop a conversation before it gets super sexual and perverted.
Yeah.
It's
Oh
like,
my
all right,
God,
no
right. So
guys,
much of that.
we're
Yeah.
not going to talk about
Right.
that. You got to have confidence to
Yeah.
be able to do that.
Redirect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we get started, why don't we like reiterate the core idea we talked about last time, which
Mhm.
was, because they're related. We're talking about creating a mental model for your mental treehouse, a place where you can something that you can kind of imagine, an idea that you can pour your thoughts into to create a shape that is a little bit more solid and easier to understand. That's why I like to use mental models. And the one that we were using was a treehouse. And there's a lot of cute reasons why I do that. Fun little features of treehouse that I can use for little good sayings and advice and ideas for my clients. But really, the idea is cultivating the capacity to have yourself feel centered as in not disbalanced emotionally, etc. Right? So centered, aligned, right? And then also having the capacity to be able to go to observation, get a little bit of distance, take a step back, look at the big picture. And those two things are very tied together. And those two things are very important because they lead into a lot of important stuff. Those are foundational, like, okay, check that first, and then we can move forward kind of things. And so a lot of the time, those are really important to figure out so that they can be a resource you can draw upon instead of some sort of rare thing you reach for that you get sometimes, or that under great effort and energy, you can pull yourself to a place of observation. It's like, I like to use the language, return to observation. Don't go to observation. That suggests that it's somewhere out there that you have to go find or you have to call on. No, well, let's cultivate the idea of being in observation, and that's your home base. That's your treehouse, right?
Yeah.
And so then when you cultivate clarity, consistency over time about having access to centeredness and access to what's the other thing I said? Access to centeredness and access to observation. Then what ends up happening is that when you have that as your normal, then when you get pulled out of that, which we can agree in being in alignment with those things gives us more power, and it makes us more effective and less suffering for ourselves and others typically. And so when we're out of alignment with that and we are used to being there because we've cultivated that, what ends up happening is that it's way obvious and noticeable, and nothing, thoughts, ideas, people, situations that might sneak in and sabotage us and pull us off center and zoom us in so we don't have access to observation. Those things feel alien and intrusive and are noticeable. And so they're more likely for you to be able to actually address them instead of them kind of sneak in and drag you off. And you're like, why is my car pulling to the left? So those kind of things. So with a basis and a starting point of that, with that kind of as a core idea, one of the things that we ended up talking a lot about was your integrity, your
Right.
say-do ratio, as I like to call it. Just to be clear, say-do, as in I say a thing, I do a thing. The frequency with which I say what I'm going to do, and then I do what I say. That's your say-do ratio. And we're going to talk about that more today. It was something that we spent almost the lion's share of last week's workshop on, but that, and part of the reason why we're doing the subject we're doing today, confidence, is directly related, and having a healthy integrity and say-do ratio is part of how you get access to confidence, authentic, real, abundant confidence, not something that you sort of psych yourself up for, or that you pretend until it eventually becomes real. And we'll talk about all that stuff, but real deep well springs of confidence are available, and it's something that you can organize. It's not something you can snap your fingers and do. That's not real. But you can organize your lifestyle in a way where it generates that. And that's why I say it's abundant, because it is being generated. It is not being caught or grabbed or held onto or embodied or inhabited or whatever the words you want to use to suggest that you're temporarily holding on to a state, right? This is something that you want to be able to have access to over time, that you can use it as fuel for what you're doing. And the way that we do that comes down to 4 basic things. But before we get into those things, since we have some folks with us here, we've got Rycon, Zach, and Sam. If anybody would be comfortable sharing, what is your relationship with confidence? What do you feel like? How do you feel like confidence works? What's your understanding of the machinery of how confidence operates? I'm curious if anybody would like to share ideas, insights. Obviously, it's a vulnerable question. If nobody's comfortable, that's fine. We can keep going. But I would like to give us a chance to talk about what is often out there in the popular culture about confidence, because it's kind of counterproductive and often, and sometimes pretty dangerous. And so I'm curious where we are at with our understanding of confidence, if anybody would like to share.
I think that's a great question as well for people watching afterwards or in the VOD. If you guys have if you have something to add to this conversation, or you can contribute your own perspective on confidence, share it with us. We'd love to hear about it. We have a whole self-mastery channel, and you can also just reply to the thread I'll create for this event. But
excellent, yeah.
Zach,
make sure to at me so I know to come and talk. There's a lot of discords I'm juggling, you guys. Real talk. I love you, but man, it's intense.
Or if you struggle with a confidence, let us know too. Like, how do you struggle with confidence? Do you view yourself as a senior executive moron?
I don't know if I've ever heard that term before. That's too funny.
That's Zach's title.
That's more of a joke.
So what do you think about joking about your own
sure
intelligence?
enough, there it is. That's too funny, Zach.
What do you think about joking about intelligence level, John?
I think that whether or not it's healthy is a direct relationship, is directly tied to whether or not you are tapping into toxic shame or whether you're just being playful. And I think sometimes self-deprecating stuff can be a way for us to address the elephant in the room of the amount of toxic shame that, like, let's be real, we are all crushed under.
Right.
It's one of the things that comes up the most with people I work with. It's nobody's like doing bad because they're experiencing toxic shame. That's like part of being a human. And so that's my like professional read on that. I don't think that it's necessarily not good to joke about intelligence. I think it's healthy to be lighthearted about things. So only if it really does create a little, basically, if you're joking about intelligence with yourself or others, if you feel what I would call a somatic, as in physical sensation body, if you what I call a somatic hit, where you get that kind of like feeling, right? That little sort of needle, maybe it's a tightness in your chest, or your stomach kind of feels funny, almost like you're hungry, but not quite, like that kind of stuff. You get that kind of like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble feeling. If that comes up, there's something more going on there. If it's just pure silly, then yeah, rock on, have fun. Nothing wrong with that at all. That would be my only, deep dive on random thing, but yes.
It's definitely random, but I think Zach's very playful and he's just joking around.
That would be my expectation.
He knows he's a genius. Yeah. He knows. I think at least, Zach. I don't know if
I love that, though. That's too funny.
He said it was playful, so.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Hey, honestly.
Zach, where does your confidence come from?
My confidence mainly comes from knowing that I'm doing what I want to do and knowing that I'm accomplishing what I'm setting out to do.
Nice.
Like, for example, I'm a 3D animator, and I make animations based off my favorite game, Ori and the Blind Forest. And
wow, what a good game. Oh my god.
I recently, like a month ago, started uploading my animations to YouTube, and recently they've been gaining a lot of traction, and my channel's been growing. I've reached
amazing,
like 80 subs since then.
Fantastic.
And that sort of growth from that thing lets me know that I'm accomplishing my goal. I'm setting out to make this cool stuff, and I'm doing that. People are seeing it, they're enjoying it, and that gives me the confidence that I need to actually continue to make that stuff.
So what were the specific, what was the language you used in the beginning? I didn't get a chance to write it down yet. I would like to keep that because I think it's interesting. You said your confidence comes from knowing what?
Knowing that I'm accomplishing what I'm setting out to do, knowing that I'm succeeding in what I'm trying to do.
And he also said doing what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Interesting. So my curiosity then is, how do you access confidence without getting that external confirmation that you're heading in the right direction? Because there's a
Mm.
lot that we do professionally, creatively, personally that is you, and you, right? And I don't know how many hours I spent in my room by myself in front of my computer, piling through a bunch of Google Docs and ideas and campaign ideas, right? Like a huge amount of this that we're doing that is buffeted and raised up by confidence is not when we have that feedback loop, right? We get that sometimes or often regularly, depending on the kind of work you're doing. But so that's my curiosity is that what happens, like, how does your confidence operate when you don't have that counterpoint, when you don't have that feedback loop?
Um, that's the thing, because my confidence is kind of dependent on that feedback. If I don't really get the feedback that I am looking for with my work, I kind of question whether it's even worth doing it.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So that's very interesting, and that is a very real kind of confidence that we can get access to. It's that external confirmation. It's like a boost. But I would say that it is available for you to create authentic, not just made up, like, hustle culture confidence, but real confidence. That it is possible to generate that on your own in an abundant way. That you can go out into the world to do the things that you are getting that you're getting the feedback from, that is giving you your confidence, that you could pull back and get confidence earlier in the process, and also not depend on an external source for your confidence. Because that's one of the things that happens a lot of the time, is that as we're challenging ourselves deeper and deeper, and this often happens with people that are, entrepreneurs and creatives and anybody that's really pursuing deep something like that, inevitably you bump up against things that are challenging, and sooner or later we start to have a conversation around, well, where's my locus of control? Are you guys familiar with that term?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
locus. Yeah. So the idea there
I
being
was
is that
just
where
actually
is the
dealing with that
location?
last night.
Really?
I was
Oh,
talking about it. Yeah.
confidence. 'Cause that's
Um,
interesting.
yeah, internal versus external. It's really a total brain shift.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It's I mean, very simply. Well, what Sam? You talked about it last night. Why don't you go ahead and take over? Give us your definition
Yeah.
of locus of control as an idea, and then I'll spin it into whatever we need here specifically.
Yeah, so locus of control is essentially like what and correct me if I'm wrong, I've studied this a long time ago, but is sort of what dictates life or the course of actions, what's controlling what happens to you, your life situation. Is it a result of either your internal decisions and process, or is it externally determined by circumstance and, like,
Mhm.
either
Others.
you believe others are responsible, God is responsible, random chance is responsible, like that's just your lottery, you got shitty circumstances, so what, I can't do anything about it, I just have to deal with it, versus, okay, what choices did I make to get here? I understand there's things that I can't change, but I can respond to them, and my response determines, how I view life. Am I on track there, or is that?
Yeah, absolutely. So locus of control really simply is, where is the location of what is in control of whatever it is you're talking about, right? So if you're talking about broadly, and how it tends to be used is exactly what you're saying. But that idea can be taken in a bunch of different directions, because really, if there is any control to be wielded over something, there is a location that control exists. Right. And the question is it within yourself or is it without? And is it external? Is it random? Is it steady and reliable? Is it to the whim of somebody else, etc.? A very simple, easy way that is relatable to every human being on the planet is something like happiness or acceptance, etc. Some of those basic core human being things. I'm happy when, if whatever comes after that is going to take somebody else to do something for you, or other circumstances to somehow go your way, that is not a internal locus of control. It's an external locus of control, and you're basically allowing them, not allowing, this is not a less than conversation. It's totally normal what we're talking about here. It's abnormal and takes a great deal of effort, and it is a practice that we keep to not have an external locus of control. That is what is the most common way to be, and is absolutely something that we all struggle with, even those of us that are paying attention and trying hard not to do that. It's an ongoing thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's zero less than shame conversation at all around anybody that's experiencing that, but we can notice that it allows it is not as safe, and safe as in like it's not as sustainable and reliable. And if it's something that is really important and core, like, you know, confidence or self-worth or etc., then, ooh, man, that's dangerous stuff to let someone else be in charge of, you know. Or circumstances be in charge of, right? And so similarly, locus of control comes back for this confidence thing as well, where if we are looking externally for confirmation that we're doing the right thing, even if we've defined success internally and we know what we're waiting and looking and trying to create, and when we are able to generate that creates confidence, that is still a call and response. There is still some sort of other that is confirming and reaffirming to you that you are being successful, and that is still, they're still in charge in a way, right? They're still holding on to that locus of control. And there's nothing wrong with using that as gas. It's fuel. Anybody that coaches with me will know, and I probably have already done this to Sam at some point, that I tend to be on the lookout for anything that we can acknowledge, any positive thing, any exciting, successful, anything, because we are in the habit of not paying attention to those things and focused more on what's not working. It's a survival thing. It's like a, you know, lizard brain, don't eat that bush, it didn't go well last time situation. You know, it's not bad, but it often doesn't serve us in this modern world where the consequences of mistakes aren't, you know, getting kicked out of the tribe and dying in the forest alone. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the same. So, but our like, you know, lizard brain meat bodies are like, I'm in danger. You know, rejection means that I'm not safe. And it's like, doesn't really work that way these days, right? And so we have the luxury of being able to play with this stuff a little bit more without as much consequences. And locus of control is one of those places where we can reclaim a little bit more agency over our internal world that is a result of our thoughts, feelings, and actions, right? And not giving others, external things, people, places, external nouns, things, any kind of control over that. However, you can use confirmation of heading in the right direction, conventional success metrics, things like that. You do want to focus on that stuff. You do want to use that to gas you up, because just like anybody that's done that has noticed, and Zach said earlier, it's like, that gives me all kinds of confidence. Seeing something that I intended to happen, and get like confirmation from a community of people, from viewers that are like, yeah, this is great. I'm subscribing, I'm liking, I'm commenting. This is good. Give me more. That's a huge confidence builder, but it's building on top of what's already there, or can be. You know, I'm not going to say should. I tend to avoid should. That seems like a broad sweeping statement, you know, Sith territory as far as I'm concerned. You know, absolutes, not typically the right move. All that is to say is that if we can shift our locus of control for as many things as we reasonably can, closer to or to all the way internal, then, you know, we are actually in a position to change things. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. Right. You know, sometimes it's easier for someone else to help or to be in charge of changing you. You know, that's why we have, you know, that's why sports teams don't just show up on the field and they're like, okay, you'll figure that out. It's like there's a coach, there's somebody to help you move. You know, that's why coaching is useful. It's, you know, people do better when they talk things out with others instead of just trying to do it on their own. However, being in a position to, when you do what you're going to do, supported by insight and support from your community, but when you are in a position to do something, being able to choose what you're going to do and how you're going to go about it from a place that is coming from inside instead of influenced by outside, the more we can shift that inner, the more power we'll have, the more agency we'll have, the better we're going to be at being a leader, which I would define my working definition for leadership is oh no, I wanted to say something else here. So my working definition of power increases your power. My working definition of power is making what isn't what is, right? And leadership is similar in that if you're a leader, you have a vision for the future that is unpredictable. And I don't mean like, you know, random number generator unpredictable. I mean, as in, it wouldn't likely happen if you didn't do something, right? Like, what would happen if you figuratively threw your oars in the river and just let the life river take you wherever it would go? That's not leadership, right? Leadership is paddling. Leadership is, I want to go over there, you know? And one of the things that leaders do is they have a vision for the future that's different than what would happen anyway. And they're trying to pull themselves and then recruit other people into that direction, recruit people to your vision, access your resources. All that stuff is leadership stuff, right? And so you're going to have more power and more access to being effective as a leader, the more we're able to shift that locus of control internally. So, so Sam, I'm curious where you are with confidence.
With locus of control, I mean, I like what you said before. It's not something that just comes naturally. I think everybody struggles with this on some level.
Sure.
And for certain, it has been an issue in my own life. Just, I've had a lot of different jobs. Clients have come and gone. I've had like probably 30 different jobs in different spaces.
Sure. Yeah.
Crazy. And over that time, it's easy to look at it and be like, okay, well, this just happened because my life, I ended up in that position. I ended up there, and I took the opportunity that came. But the older I get, I think the more I'm realizing, especially how those all stack up against what I've decided or wanted, and even my my mindset in the big picture has led me down certain paths and kind of put blinders on in some ways. Like, you realize how many things you just weren't considering that really impact your development and the choices available. I think it was either you or another friend of mine, I can't remember now. They said, every time you make a decision, you're increasing the amount of decisions available for you, or decreasing. Was it? Oh man, now I can't remember. The point being, like, those decisions are what are changing the course of your options, your potential there to do different things. So for me, I think at this point I'm pretty set on the amount of work I put in, how hard I work, and really having solid grounding and knowing what my purpose is. That is what determines my success here. And
and how does that all relate to your confidence specifically?
I'm pretty confident I'm going to succeed. Like, I know I'm going to succeed because I have incredible people around me, but even more than that, like, I know what I want to accomplish, and I know that I am capable of doing it. And if I have the right, if I apply myself correctly, I am able to accomplish pretty much unlimited potential here. So I have to choose, what is the lifestyle that I see myself living? What do I want? And I've chosen.
So what in all of this, you said you're feeling confident. You said you feel like you've got, you're lined up to be heading in the direction you want. You're confident that you have the capacity to do that. But confidence in being able to do that, where does that come from? Like one layer deeper.
Oh, you're talking to me?
No, I think he's asking me.
Talking to Sam, but sure. If anybody would like to get in here, because I'd like to get some of the different ideas about confidence and relationships about confidence out here on the table so we can discuss them. That's kind of the inside baseball of what I'm doing here in this moment. Is I'd like for us to get out onto the table a couple different perspectives on confidence so that I can, interpret them and then put in the mix this idea that I have that I like to call. It's kind of an adorable term because I'm trying to use it for speaking events and stuff. But, it's like it's an equation, really. It's like, like to call it the confidence equation, but it really is. And it's an equation. It's you need these things in alignment and operating well. And that just creates confidence. Right. And so I want to get to that as soon as we can, but I'm very curious where other people are at and what they think about the idea of how it works. That's kind of what I'm asking.
Yeah. Well, I think it comes for me from a place of knowing my purpose on earth. And for me, I'm a very spiritual man, and I spend a lot of time in prayer and in determining why I exist here. So that I think gives me a lot of confidence, knowing that that's what I need to do, and my mission is set. I guess that's the next layer deeper.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's kind of what I wanted. So does anybody else like to have share their idea or perspectives on confidence, where it comes from, what they do? Speak now, and then jump into the next
Hayden's
part
here
here.
as well. Welcome, Hayden. How are you doing, man?
Hey, Hayden. Welcome.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Thank you for spending
The delay. Enjoy this trailer for a second.
So I work in a market where I have to get people verified on social media. And for
Mhm.
my first client, I had to just say I've done it in the past, right? But that was only for the first person. And since
Gotcha.
it's an all or nothing business model, once I have one person go through, it really makes it easy to go through with the rest of them.
Gotcha. And you did find, obviously, that it actually got you where you were trying to go, right?
Exactly.
Right. So fake it till you make it can mechanically work, but it is, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we all, I'm pretty fast and loose when it comes to a lot of that stuff, because at the end of the day, how good of a job you do is much more important than what you did before. I'm most
Yeah,
interested in
exactly.
what you're able to do now. And that's not common because it's not as easy to scan people. And, there's a fire hose problem when it comes to people you want to work with or hire or et cetera. So I can understand us wanting to have more convenient ways to, thin slice our way through candidates, whether it's hires or et cetera. So
Yeah.
that makes sense. And the fake it till you make it does work. It does work. It does work with actually trying to accomplish success in the endeavor. It can work certainly that
Yeah.
way. I'm not going to say does always, but it certainly can work. And it also does eventually create authentic, real, deep down within you confidence. That
Mhm.
truly reliable resource. You step onto a stage, give me a mic and say, what do you guys want to talk about? And then you can just talk, like that kind of confidence that is available eventually when you're doing the
Yeah.
fake it till you make it thing, right? So cool. All right. So from here, let's shift into talking about specifics about my theory on confidence. So very simply, confidence is centeredness, integrity, experience, and preparation all coming together. And there's a lot more to say about that. So we've talked about centeredness a bunch last week. Check the VOD out. Effectively, that is being balanced and aligned. Whatever that means for you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, etc. The more aligned you are with your values and your vision, the more aligned you are with what you'd like to be doing with your life, the more centered you are. That's that calm, confident, healthy place to be, right? That centered space, not a disbalanced, nervous, am I safe? What's happening? Fight or flight would be a good example of not centered, right?
Yeah.
So getting a hold of centeredness, right? And then we talked about how going to observation, talking about what's happening, glass half full, what's something I like about what's going on, glass half empty, what's something I don't like about what's going on. Just describing what's going on can pull you to observation. And then observation is a place that it's easier to make your way to centeredness. So we've talked about that a bunch last week. So centeredness is very, very important. The next piece here is integrity. So what do you think about, like, how would you define integrity?
Yeah. So whenever I'm thinking about integrity, I'm thinking more about like how true to themselves and how true to what they're doing someone truly is, right? Like your integrity is not to, yeah.
I think rigid adherence to a personal code.
Rigid adherence to a personal code. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. So So, very simply, and you'll notice I keep saying my working definition for it because it's useful to define specifically an idea that has been hijacked and has a lot of baggage and a bunch of different colloquial uses, right? So in this moment, my working definition for integrity is saying what you're going to do and doing what you say. The more you do that, the higher your integrity is. It comes back to that say-do ratio that I talked about at length last week. That is achieving an integrity. And it's not terribly complicated. It's not easy, but it's not terribly complicated to improve your integrity, because it really is simply saying what you're going to do and doing what you say and increasing the rate at which you do that. And it's a journey. It's hard. It's not easy. And it's not something you flip on or off. But at the same time, that comes with a bunch of strategies, comes with a bunch of lifestyle changes, comes with perspective changes to be able to increase your integrity. And we talked about that a lot last week, and I'm happy to talk about it more here or privately in a session with somebody. There's a lot there, but it is something that you do, that your level of integrity is 100% a locus of control inside of you. That's something that's up to you, right? Mm-hmm. As much as it doesn't feel like that sometimes, you really are in charge of your own integrity. And man, there's a lot of stuff in this world that we only have some or very little or sometimes no control over, like way more things than not. So having something that is so important, that I'm really in charge of, like, that's kind of awesome. So having a high level of integrity, that say-do ratio, that's the other thing that you got to get locked in. Centeredness, integrity. Going to observation helps you get into centeredness. Having a higher say-do ratio gets you better access to integrity. If those two things are working, then it's a conversation around preparation and experience. Now, obviously, preparation and experience, those two things almost seem like something that's mundane to bring up in this conversation. It's like, obviously, if you have a lot more preparation and a lot more experience, you're probably going to be more confident. That makes sense. It's pretty easy and observable, right? The thing that's unique about this is that experience and preparation exist in an inverse relationship when we're talking about achieving confidence. What I mean by that is that they're on opposite sides of a teeter-totter. The more preparation you have, the less experience that you will need to be able to feel authentically confident. Not fake it till you make it, not pretend until you not try and then people like you in the audience and you feel good now. No, like you get up out of bed in the morning and you're heading to some conference to say something in front of hundreds of people and you start confident. You don't get confident because it's going well. You don't psych yourself up in the mirror before, but you begin and continue to be confident from the get-go. That kind of confidence, that is about having a high enough level of experience in relationship to your preparation, or vice versa. Once you already have your centeredness and integrity dialed, and we're not going to continue to talk about centeredness and integrity unless we have questions or like to go deeper there. The thing that I think we'd like to move into here is the conversation around experience versus preparation. Because those two things do operate together in tandem, and you will need less of one if you have more of the other. And so if you're doing something you don't have much experience in, just to sort of run the scenario out here, then a large amount of preparation is going to put you into a place where eventually there will be enough preparation where you're going to actually feel confident without having to force it, without having to pretend or wait for something external. You can generate it with the appropriate amount of preparation for something that you have a lack of experience in, if you are also centered and acting in integrity in your life.
Right. Not
in a moment, because centeredness and integrity, well, centeredness can be in a moment or not, but integrity is a lifestyle. It's an all the time thing that is a combination. It is a sum of the way you operate as a person in this world with others and yourself. That is a bigger thing. And so it's something that it takes time, but at the same time, it's something that you're in charge of. And it's something that's not terribly fragile. It's not likely to change its state dramatically in a short window of time, right? Especially considering that if you have the habit of being in integrity, it becomes easier to be in integrity because habits are easier to do than things that aren't habits, right? So it's a nice thing because when you really put the energy in to have a high say-do ratio and you have a higher level of integrity, it's more reliable. It's not like, oh man, all my confidence just disappeared. It's not like that so much when you have a high level of integrity. That is sticky. It can change. You can certainly disrespect your integrity a whole bunch and evolve that. But, if you know in your bones that, oh, when I say I'm going to do something, that shit's happening. You know,
Mhm.
like that's how it feels to me when I put something on my action items list, like my to-do list. That's happening. It may not happen today or tomorrow, but like if it's on the list, it's going to get checked off, or it's going to get removed because it's irrelevant. But it's going to get dealt with, you know. And that the only reason that I feel confident like that is because I have a track record of doing that, and I don't have a track record of doing that other people see. I have a track record with myself that I know that when I put it down there, it's going to happen. And so that allows me to operate with my to-do list with higher levels of integrity and higher levels of confidence, right? So
Right.
shifting away from the integrity conversation back to the experience preparation differential there, if you have a whole bunch of experience with something, and anybody here, we're talking to a bunch of professionals here, anybody here has a lot of experience in something, I'm sure many of you do, there are probably situations and circumstances that somebody with less experience than you in that same vertical, that their head would explode if you put them into that circumstances. But you'd be like, all right, yeah, what do you need? What's going on? You need to talk about something? You need to fix something? Like, okay, sure, I got you. And that's a extension of your experience. But here's what's interesting. When you have that experience, that ease with less preparation requires less preparation, right? You don't need so much preparation if you're very well experienced with something. And so in a way, you can kind of punt the preparation, or at least reduce it, and still have access to like real, serious, reliable, you know, a fountain of power for yourself and confidence, right? And that's where the fake it till you make it thing comes in. And I think that's what's perhaps most interesting about the fake it till you make it thing and why it works. Because with everything that I've said here, does it sound like fake it till you make it would work? Or does it seem like, how does that land on you after what we've been talking about, you guys?
Well, honestly, for the fake it till you make it, I think it really just depends on what you're doing, right?
Sure.
Like some things you can't fake because the skill required to do it and the knowledge that you need, and something you just
Mhm.
can't BS your way through, obviously. And
Right.
yeah, so it really just depends on what it's about.
Absolutely. And so what we'll find is that when somebody is in a situation or circumstance where fake it till you make it could work, because it's very wise to notice that there are certain circumstances where like, that's not real, man. Like and that's something that I've often noticed in the world, especially as I got higher up and more successful in different verticals over the years. I found that like there's no amount of faking it in front of the real gatekeepers, the people that really hold the keys to the kingdom, that you
Mhm.
really have to prove your worth to. You cannot fake to those people. That does not work. Not real. They will know. They'll be like, nope, kick rocks, you're out. Not gonna, nope. You know, and similarly, they'll pull people in that like don't have on paper a lot of skills and experience because they demonstrate the skills and experience because they know what to look for, right?
Yeah.
So there are places where you can get away with that. Typically, the more informed someone is, the less likely you're going to get away with that, right? However, we are more talking about your internal relationship with confidence here, instead of can you get away with it with your clients until you get good enough that they pay you, and then you do it, and then you do know how to do it, and then you feel confident, right? The internal, that kind of, you know, that calm, quiet source of strength that confidence can be, that is not something that is something that the fake it till you make it can create, but it does so in a rather abusive and ineffective way. And here's how. Effectively, if you are trying to fake it till you make it, what's happening here is that, well, first of all, you need to be centered and in integrity. So if you are or aren't doing those things, it's gonna sabotage or slow you down on some level. But continuing on out of that, if you have those things figured out, and you're just battling with, I don't have enough experience and I'm not prepared enough, and I'm just going to fake it until I do have enough of something. That's what you're doing, basically, is you're effectively choosing to completely punt preparation and instead choosing to throw yourself into a series of circumstances over time where you're totally underprepared, not confident, and likely will not perform well and could seriously injure your brand, you know, which is really a fancy modern way of saying your reputation,
Yeah.
right? And so it is risky, it's unwise, it's toxic, it can definitely hurt you, but it can work by a certain set of definitions, or by a certain definition, right? Especially outwardly, it looks like it's working. But what really is going on is that you are choosing to not do one of the things, one of the legs that holds this table up. You're just choosing not to do it. And then you're like, I'm just not going to do the preparation. The end. That's what that means. Fake it till you make it means somebody is refusing to do their preparation. That's effectively what that means. Because the way that it works is if you throw yourself into circumstances where you're going to get experience, you're not prepared, and it's probably not going to go great, and you're going to deal with the fallout of not being prepared. But you are getting experience. That's happening for real. And you have to have the makeup and the willingness and the fortune to be able to keep being allowed to take those opportunities and throw yourself in the ring, as it were. And then hope that you don't like injure yourself or your reputation in a way that doesn't allow you to keep going. And then just keep hurling yourself at the wall until it actually starts to work. And the way that it starts to work is that in that unskillful, really belligerent choosing not to be prepared, what ends up happening is that you accrue enough experience to where you don't need the preparation, but you accrue the experience in like a brutal gauntlet crucible that is of your own making and completely unnecessary. And so that's my main idea about that fake it till you make it thing. And that's why it's so insidious. And I wanted to make sure to bring it up as at least a side note in this conversation today, is that it kind of works. It's sort of terrible, but it kind of works. And so it's difficult for me to sit here and go, well, that's BS. Don't do that, because it kind of works. And so I want to be real with y'all and say, it kind of works, but it's like not healthy, man. And it's probably not the most effective way to get there. And it's likely going to like goof up your body or your heart or your mind or your relationship. It's like, can you run a marathon without having trained for it? Like some people probably could do that, but they would definitely lose some toenails and have tons of blisters and not be able to walk the next couple days. And who knows? It's not a good plan. Be prepared. And so that be prepared thing is a fundamental component of confidence. You get your centeredness and your integrity dialed in. That's lifestyle stuff. That's internal. That's you, and you stuff. And then you're pointing yourself at something that you'd like to do and you'd like to have access to confidence when doing it. Guess what? If you don't have experience, it's time to pile on preparation. But here's the fun part. Once you have enough experience, you don't need that much preparation, right? For today's talk, I said, hey, maybe we should talk about confidence when I was talking to Sam about this. And he said, that sounds good. That's all the preparation I did. I have a couple notes about like the way I like to describe preparation and some specific language that I have saved here so that I can reference it if I have like a brain fart in the middle of things, because I'm human, that happens. But I'm not reading a script. I don't have notes. I don't even have bullet points. I'm taking, like when you see me typing, I'm taking notes about what we're talking about, not looking at things that I've already written. Right. And in this particular space and in this particular topic, I'm confident because I'm experienced. And I don't have to have all that preparation for this particular moment in this day, this time, right? Because I'm able to rely on the experience. The preparation isn't as necessary. Would preparation be useful? Yeah, sure. But it's diminishing gains. We're kind of falling off the edge of the bell curve here, right? And so I'm able to show up. I'm able to do some things in my life, like many of you, I'm sure, are able to as well, with less preparation, or sometimes some to none preparation. And this mechanic of it being like a teeter-totter, this inverse relationship, is something that's very powerful, because when we find ourselves struggling to figure out how to get confidence, I'm just so unconfident, I can't seem to, now we actually have steps. There's a recipe. Yay! It's not easy, but it's not this weird, confusing, nebulous cloud of fog that you're trying to like, how do I don't know. I guess I'll just try. And then what does trying do? That ends up putting you in circumstances you're underprepared for, and you get some experience, but it's going to be brutal, and you might have negative fallout as a result of going in unprepared. And so that's the main idea. Centeredness, integrity, and then experience and preparation in appropriate amounts in comparison to each other. That's the theory. That's the whole thing right there.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah. So how does that land on you in our few minutes we have left?
Yeah, I got a hard stop at 1, by the way. We're going to see Avatar, but what do you guys think?
Fine, same. Same.
I have some commentary. I think, the reality that enforces that saying is like how competitive the landscape is, and especially when you're dealing with when it's a junior entry level person, they're sort of conditioned to obviously oversell or frame themselves in a way that
Mhm.
makes that buy-in. And um, whether an entry level person that's trying to get hired, they're competing with everyone around them. And I
Yeah.
can tell you, at least with like in the tech industry, it's a very common thing. Like and even just young people in general on the internet, it's always like kind of one up or like flexing type of fugazi, you could call it. But yeah, it's like it's a cultural dynamic, and that competition still persists though, even if their self esteem doesn't exactly like balance with the
Wh-
confidence required to walk through fire.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It does exist. And that's part of the reason why I think it's so important to have access to like the real machinery and ingredients of how confidence works, because you are, regardless of what preparation and your state, whatever state you're in, whatever preparation you've done, you're right. You're going into a competitive, hostile, crazy environment. That's real. It's tough. And so being able to come from a place of strength is better. And so if we can do that, one of the things that we can do to increase our strength, increase our ease and our sort of our agility through things, having confidence is allowing us to be relaxed. It's allowing us to have access to what our subconscious has learned over the years. We're not going to have as much trouble stumbling over what we're saying, having divergent thinking so that we can come up with creative problem solving and outside the box thinking to demonstrate that you're a linchpin that this person needs or wants from a hire or as a new client, etc. Being in a confident place is a very powerful way for you to perform better. And so confidence is such a useful tool in a dynamic and crazy environment like you described that is so real and totally how it is. Going in with a little extra boost is very powerful. And I think that we want to be careful not to conflate fake it till you make it as in I know more than I know and I'm convincing my clients to trust me versus fake it till you make it. I am not confident. I'm going to pretend that I'm confident until I feel confident. That's feelings. That's internal. And that's more what I'm talking about here. This confidence equation, the centeredness, integrity, experience, and preparation, like that's not necessarily going to buy you. That's not going to compensate for not having a good portfolio to show your client or not having the kind of experience that they would like, et cetera. Like that's still real. You still have to deal with that. And the example that we got earlier, of like having to say, yeah, I've done this before when you've never done it before. That's more about your relationship with your client instead of your relationship with you. And the confidence that I'm talking about in this specific moment is more that. It's less about your client's confidence in you and more about your confidence in yourself, right? And so even if you're heading into a situation where you couldn't have experience because you're at the beginning of your career or your business or you're transitioning to something different and you just do not have the paperwork to demonstrate your competence, then going into that place with confidence is useful. And how confidence happens is preparation and, preparation because you don't have experience. So you're leaning on preparation, right? And preparation that you can make isn't preparation like dream up a bunch of things that you can show them that you didn't really do, but it demonstrates, no, it's not that so much as it is like be prepared for what's happening right then. Learn about the company, do some research, read How to Win Friends and Influence People, talk to a coach and get coaching on, learn about pitching, learn about frames, read Pitch Anything, read, Never Eat Alone Again, read So Good They Can't, anyway, read books, learn about stuff and like get good at what you're about to do. And what you're about to do is get hired, get good at getting hired. You can prepare for that. You can't prepare in a way that demonstrates something that you haven't done yet, certainly, but you can create confidence for what you're next doing, which is heading into that competitive environment. You can prepare for heading into that competitive environment. You can't necessarily prepare to look like you've done more than you can. And sometimes we can try and do that, and sometimes that's how that works. But more, the confidence I'm talking about is more about you having confidence inside, which then becomes a resource you can draw upon in your work. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think that is a really good point to make, and that's why Triba exists, to help you practice and get the experience too. Like, so many people coming in here and networking and talking with real business owners then gives them that confidence, that place of, hey, I've experienced this. I know they're just real people, normal people. They go out and end up getting jobs, really great jobs, and then I've got to find new people to run the community with me. But it's always an influx of people who have varying levels of confidence, and I always see when they accept that it's some skill they can practice and nurture, and it's not just internally just, well, that's just how it is, or externally that's just how it is. They take that initiative and start practicing it. Like, one guy, Amparo, used to be super shy and never talk. He's one of our longest time members, an amazing guy. Now he's like senior staff, and he's doing marketing and going out to all these big guys and talking to them. I'm like, that just was really cool to see him improve over the years. So I mean, I hope everybody is able to come to a place of confidence, and from there make money, make their business or their venture successful, working hard.
Get after those aspirations of yours. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to wrap up because we gotta head out, but thank you all for joining us, and John as well. Thank you for leading this. I think you guys should get in Triba and reach out to him. He can help you as well build that. That's why we have coaches, right? You wouldn't expect a team to just go out there on the field and play, even if they know the game. You'd want a coach to give them guidance and direction too. So
people need community, man. That's how it works. And of course,
I can vouch for John too. He's great. He's a great guy. He's got some really valuable insights. Anyway,
you guys can definitely hit me up on in the DMs. I'm anybody on Tribe can hit me up. Coach John Fitch at Gmail. Happy to talk to anybody. And Tribe, I'm offering 2 no-charge sessions to get you going and see if you like it, and any questions you have answered, and get to know me a little bit before we move forward. I want to make it easy and available for people to get in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm on my 3rd now, but the first 2,
that's right.
That's worth it, even if you don't end up, paying this guy to help you coach you, but just get that insight. He can give you some really valuable.
Yeah, and I'm 100% excited to talk to you about whatever. And if you want to stop after 2, beautiful. I'm happy to give whatever value I can. I'm into reducing suffering. That's the plan.
Yeah.
So let's anybody that would like to talk, I'm here for you.
All right, guys, and get Triba Gold. That's how you get all these cool things that we're talking about in Triba as well for a discount. This collaborative community is a way to filter out the fakers in essence, but give experience to those who really want to get that. So preparation and experience and internal locus of control versus external, all really great discussion topics.
Integrity,
today.
Centeredness, all that good stuff. Yeah.
I made some really awesome clips, and I put them in the events channel under building confidence. So there's there's already like over half a dozen clips in there, and I didn't even post them all.
We're like clip machines over here with this.
I know, man, and we got to get the content team pumping these out because there's some good ones. The one we posted last week did really well too. So thank you for doing this, man. I appreciate the value you're adding to the group.
It's my pleasure. It's fun.
Hopefully y'all got something. Philip, thanks for joining us. Hayden, Emma hopped in. Tabalo, love you guys, and happy Valentine's Day, fam. Happy Valentine's Day. Hope y'all have a great one.
Have a good one.
All right, take care.
Bye, everybody.